Hi, good morning. My name is Ola, and I'm the founder of the Money with Club. And basically, we have the sessions every week on Saturdays, 9 a.m. GMT plus one, and we cover global news that affects your pocket. And so this week, we have very interesting news. Of course, we know that the US elections are over, and we know who the incoming president of the United States is. But today we're going to unpack it from an economic perspective, from a financial perspective, from your pocket perspective. How does a Trump win affect your pockets? Right? And that's what we're going to focus on. If you're in and the global economy, if you're in Africa, and if you're in Nigeria. Now, to break it down, first of all, why is it so important? Why is it a big deal? First of all, understand that America is the country of the world. Like they are the country of the world currently. Like when they say world power, they are from an economic perspective and from a military security perspective, right? Such that when America coughs, everybody starts to just tumble over in any direction, good or bad, right? Such that whoever is leading the country and steering the direction of the United States has an impact, and what they believe in and what the policies they plan to drive affects everybody. Now, if you don't know, understand that some of the things that you are seeing in terms of the prices of goods, interest rates, the cost of borrowing is a fallout of policy. It actually is. So it's important for you to see. And then what usually happens is that policy might be set up in like January, but you're not starting seeing the impact like December or the year after. That's how monetary policy is. It takes a while for the impact to show. So that sometimes if you're able to follow the policy and the policy changes, you can sort of predict where the market is going. Now, it's something that a lot of people who are not in the finance economic space do not know much about, and that's what this channel is for. So if you really want to understand, but it just feels like Greek, yes, we explain personal finance, investing, and the economy in simple English. So subscribe. Just click the subscribe button right now. Don't postpone it. Subscribe right now. Now, moving on. So, what has happened? Yes, President Trump is coming in again. He's going to be the 47th president of the United States of America. Now, whether you are happy or sad, whether you are happy or sad about it, if you are happy about it, kudos to you. You are aligned. You probably would have taken investment positions on the back of it or trading positions on the back of it. Big up. But if you are sad, it is what it is. Keep it moving because we have money to be made. And regardless of whoever is in power in the next 4 years, you must be positioned to make money. So just keep that emotion aside. It will not serve you in any way. You need to be able to see clearly and take position. That's the first thing. Now, secondly, right, how does a Trump presidency impact the world? Now, first we have to look at his body language. What are the things that he's up and about? Number one, he's saying that he's saying that he's not about the wars, funding wars that do not impact America, that are not in America's what's it called, direct business. It's not in a US war. It's stepping into somebody else's war. Like he's not about that. He's not about all the climate change things, all the going greens. So as we are dropping these things, you understand that it is changing. Like some of the policies that we see, there's going to be a change in policy direction, and there's going to be a change in which companies are going to be benefiting from a Trump presidency. Now, if you don't know already, the stock prices jumped, like jumped as soon as he won. Why? Because majority of the big tech are aligned with his policies in terms of why are we harassing these big tech companies to break up and all those things. He's aligned with them, right? So I'm just trying to like highlight the impact of a Trump presidency from a real perspective, meaning that these are the things that you can see. He's not really a fan of this whole climate change thing, right? He's all about manufacturing in America, growing American businesses, making America great. So you see that whole China imports, blah blah blah. If even though the Biden presidency tried to slow down on it, like they put a halt by increasing tariffs and stuff, I expect that the Trump presidency is going to double down on it, right? Now, what does that mean for you as an investor in the global market? You as an investor that can buy into US stocks. Let's pick some places that will be affected. For example, if there's going to be a slowdown in the war in Ukraine or funding of the war in Ukraine, what's going to happen? How do they fund? They don't necessarily carry cash and give them. What they do is that they provide them with weapons, they provide them with tools, blah, blah, blah. So who are the companies that will be impacted by that if there's a slowdown? all things being equal, the defense companies will be impacted. The Boeings of this life, they'll be impacted by it, and Lockheed Martin, those kind of companies, they'll be impacted by it. However, understand the way these things work, right? That they'll be impacted from one end doesn't mean that they won't find a way to compensate them. But if there's no war, there's really not much that can be done. But that's just the general idea. So we have to keep on top of these things. Now, what other companies could be impacted by it? Now, if, for example, there's a slowdown in Russia-Ukraine war, and all those you can't trade with Russia, all those things slow down if it ends up happening. Because if I remember the last time, Trump tried to build a bridge with Russia, sort of. When I say a bridge, try to slow down on the tensions, right? Now, if that happens, right, some of the things that we are seeing in terms of Europe cannot buy oil from Russia, Europe cannot, they have to reroute ships to avoid some of those war areas, all those things are going to change. What does that mean? If everybody can trade with Russia, then there's more supply of oil. Bang bang. What does that mean? Oil prices could be impacted. What am I saying here? Like, it's a lot. And the interesting thing is that if you're not a member of the Money with Club, for you, because our next webinar, next week, we're going to actually unpack which stocks should we be buying, which ones should we leave, which ones should we hold on, which ones should we sell, right? Because these things, when you analyze them, right, it will inform your decisions, right? Another thing also is that there's the whole education, the whole healthcare, all those things are going to be impacted because the idea is that he's changing direction from the previous president for a lot of things. Now, the caveat is this: there's a limit to how many wars one person can fight and win in a 4-year period, right? Such that there's going to be a yo-yo in the market. Why? Because he might push out something, he might try to do an executive action on something, and they might take it to court, the court to reverse it. He might try to stop the war in Ukraine, and then something happens and he has to pull back. As much as he has promised all these are campaign promises. This is what he said to get into power and get people's votes, right? The fact is that not all of them will be able to, he won't be able to pull through all of them. So we have to keep on a tab on which ones are yes, done, signed, sealed, delivered, and which ones will take a lot of work for him to pull through. Why? Because there's an opposition. Why am I saying all this? It might sound like I'm talking politics. I'm not really talking politics. I'm talking economics here. I'm talking investing. I'm talking trading. Why? Because all this yo-yo you'll be seeing in the news is going to affect the stock prices. It's going to affect which venture capital company is going to go up or go down, right? But the only thing that we all tend to agree on with this Trump presidency is that the direction that the Feds have taken in terms of cutting rates, it's most likely is going to continue, which is going to make him look good because you also see that the stock price will in the end trend up, right? And everybody will be happy, right? But how he will be able to manage inflation is going to be a thing that we'll have to look out for, because those are the things that impact those decisions to cut rates. I hope I've explained it well. But long and short of what I'm saying is that don't look at a Trump presidency or a Trump win as just a political win. It is an economic change, or it's an economic and investment thing, right? So how he was going to look at mortgage rates, impact mortgage rates, impact housing supplies, you also have to consider that those are things that you need to look at and say, these are my investments. How is it going to be impacted? That's the first thing. Now, moving down to Africa, because in these sessions, we basically talk about global news, Africa, Africa news, and then Nigerian news. Now, Africa, what is going to be the impact of a Trump presidency? Now, our concern is not all those visa restrictions and stuff, because yeah, those are like political stuff, right? But let's just pick one angle. So there's this big brother war between US and China, where China is trying to take over from America as the capital of the world, and US is like, no, I'm not having it. Now, what we have seen is that there's almost like a power tussle for Africa, meaning if you are going to do stuff with China in this country, then America will not be smiling with you. Do you get like that kind of thing? Such that Africa, which data research, everybody, economies just agrees the new frontier is the next frontier, is like the future, blah, blah, blah. Is going to be like a battleground place, meaning America is going to need to choose which countries do they want to support, which countries do they want to align with and be the big brother for, because that is the next frontier. Now, such that while um Trump is going to be looking at making America great again. Um, there are some he would probably have to have a good Africa policy, right? He would probably have to look for some country. He will not even probably he will look for some countries or decide on some countries where they would have as allies, strategic allies. So it's more like depending on your positioning. What you might find is, because he's very, very direct in his dealings, you might find that okay, if you are doing this with China, we cannot support you. But if you want us to do this, let's do this together. All those things, right? So, and on the other hand, also that's on one side, that's on the general support development, because you might say, okay, he's making America great again, he's focusing on his country, so he might leave Africa. No, it might not entirely be like that. So, but it will depend on the country and their current positioning and their strategic direction. I might put that as a caveat. So if you are currently positioned where they feel like you are key to their access in this area or in this region, then you would see that America will continue to toast you as an African country, right? But on the flip side, also, there's also that part where lower rates from the Fed is definitely going to bring cash into Africa. Why? Because as we continue to be creative in our tech space, in our development space, what's going to happen as rates get lower and lower and the returns begin to look less and less attractive, they would naturally flow to Africa. So it's one of those things where we are not sure. We have to watch and see. We have to look at each country individually. We have to look at each sector in each country individually and see where to position ourselves. And then finally, Nigeria. Nigeria is a very interesting place. Why? Because it's especially with the current fuel price, oil price, exchange rate issue, right? You can say, for example, that America during Trump's first run as president, he was very particular about America being independent in terms of energy security, and he was up about shale oil and all that. Right now, if he comes back to that, especially because he's not a renewable energy gang person, right? That's the positioning. Remember, their institutions. You can't just circle everything around a man, but the Republicans also who own the House right now or are leading the House right now, so he has things to his favor, right? Now, but if you look at the whole oil thing, oil independence, energy independence of America, then you might find that there'll be increased production of oil in America, which will force oil prices to come down. Right now, I'm talking about oil from a Nigeria perspective, because that's Nigeria's major revenue source, if you get what I mean. Now, oil price. So there's a tendency that it might be oversupply of oil. Now, let's pull back from a Nigerian perspective, because fuel prices have skyrocketed. For the man on the streets, what you might find is that oil and fuel price might go from the 1000s to like the 900s or the 800s, depending on how low it is, which everybody will be happy. Yeah. But and that's also assuming that exchange rate stays the same, which could happen because interest rates are low abroad and there can be that flow of capital towards us. Can be because there's also a local positioning that is important. Can being the key word. However, because we're talking about oil prices, so say oil prices go down, it pays the guy on the streets, because fuel price will come down, everything along with it will come down, but our revenue as a country is going to be impacted and impacted significantly. For context, 2024 budget, which has like a massive deficit already, meaning that the money you said you were going to make based on this oil is not even complete. It's currently at 77. Oil prices are currently around 72, right? And in Trump's presidency, there was the pandemic that distorted things, but there was a time when oil prices were like minus 37, and I think the high was like maybe 75 at some point, which was like in 2018 or so during his presidency. Why? Because he was all about America producing their own fuel. Right. So if that happens from an oil perspective, Nigeria is really in a shaky place. Like I said, from a general socio-economic perspective as a nation, it might be good because fuel price is impacting everything. Everything you can see is being impacted by fuel prices currently, more so than even the revenue that the government is making, because last the government is still borrowing. Yeah, but this is something that we need to look out for. So as a Nigerian, how would you position yourself? I dare say one of the things that we need to highlight in this whole Trump change is that the most sure thing is that there's going to be a lot of uncertainty. But then, as an investor, you need to sit down, analyze, which is what we're going to do next week in the club. Yeah, and actually say which ones make sense. And the way we work in the club is that it's going to be a debate. Someone will say, "What do you think of this?" Oh, like you said this, but I mean, I'm thinking from this angle, from this angle, from this angle, and then people begin to understand and position themselves because number one, fortune does favor the brave. When there's uncertainty, that is when there's room for high return in a short period. However, you can either go right and very right, or you can go wrong and very wrong. So yes, just want to say thank you. Oh, I see someone. Hi, Business Online. Thank you for joining. Um, like basically we do this every Saturday. If you have any questions, please feel free to drop. If you have thoughts, what would you say would be the largest impact of a Trump presidency on any economy wherever you are in the world? It'd be important for us to hear your own thoughts. But I mean, fundamentally, just understand that it's not just politics. There's a financial, like a personal pocket financial angle to a Trump win or to whoever's win, because we're not about politics. We're about sun is shining, let's go. Whoever is there, like we roll. So yeah, everyone have a beautiful week ahead. And don't forget to share with your friends and encourage them to subscribe also.